The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. How you guys feeling tonight? Sunday night, pregame. Can't pregame without a little bit of an adult beverage. You can't pregame. It's not a proper pregame, at least, without one. So, I told you guys I'd be back. I'm back on Sunday night. Has anything surprised you thus far that has transpired as we head into the first day of the tampering period, which essentially kicks off free agency? Has anything surprised you? I don't think I've been shocked by one thing that has transpired yet. Not a single thing. So let's go through the day's events, and we'll have a podcast tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a jam-packed day. I'm going to have a podcast around noon tomorrow. I'll be on Bleacher Report at 4:30, from 4:30 to 6:30. I'll be live back on the channel with updates on everything that has transpired, everything that we've heard, rumors, etc. And then also talking about what's left, what hasn't happened yet, what we expect to happen, trying to predict things, etc., etc. We'll be back around 8:30 tomorrow night. So tomorrow is going to be a jam-packed show here on the Louie T Network and elsewhere, with yours truly being involved. But with that said, it's been a whirlwind, but I told you guys, deadline spur action. I told you that, right? We're on the eve of the tampering period, which it's not the actual deadline. But if you're a team with a pending free agent that's going to garner attention, you don't even want them getting to a point where they can hear other offers from other teams that may entice them to not want to sign your offer, right? Might drive up your price. As the Bengals and the Cowboys continue to find out, as if they didn't already know how the market works, the price doesn't go down and only goes up the longer you wait, right? So most teams that wanted specific players back were going to get in before this tampering period. And that's what you're seeing. A ton of teams getting the guys that they value back on their squads under contract before this tampering window opens up tomorrow. So nothing surprised me, right? Nick Bolton going back to Kansas City didn't surprise me. Did I see a Josh Allen extension coming when he already had a deal just, 2 years ago, and he had like 4 years left on his contract? No, I didn't see the Josh Allen 6-year, $330 million extension. No, I didn't see that coming. No, didn't see it coming. Good for him, right? Did I see Harold Landry going to New England? What did I tell you? I said Mike Vrabel, his ex-coach, is in New England. They got a bunch of money and no talent. What do you think they're going to do? Spend money. Not surprised that Harold Landry is a Tennessee Titan. Did I see the DK Metcalf trade coming to the Steelers of all teams? No. But I thought he would get traded, and I thought it was going to take a second-round pick, as I told you. So that portion didn't surprise me. The team he got traded to, pretty interesting. That's a podcast discussion, though. That's a podcast discussion. So many other things have transpired. Jake Matthews gets taken care of. Ronnie Stanley's off the board. I know a lot of you, options. We've talked about it. We want options. Ronnie Stanley gone. Yeah, options have been taken away. I don't think they were going to do anything at left tackle anyway, but you'd love the option to exist to at least see what they would have done had that option been there. But no Alaric Jackson, no Ronnie Stanley. All there is Cam Robinson. I'm good on him. I think you should just keep pushing, right? Keep it pushing. And then there's the matter of one Myles Garrett. Oh my goodness. Myles Garrett got your ass, didn't he? Gotcha, bitch. Ding. He gotcha. Now, here's the part of that equation I didn't see coming. He made it seem as if this wasn't a money ploy, right? This no amount of money can make me sign back with the Browns. He played that card, right? We've seen this movie before, and it ends the same way every time. Okay. Whether it was Deebo Samuel just a couple of years ago, trade me, I want out of here. And then a week later, Deebo Samuel, it gets extended by the San Francisco 49ers. Whether it was last summer with Brandon Ayuk, get me out of here, kicking and screaming. He walks out of practice. I want out of here. Trade me. And then he gets a long-term deal. You know how many times we've seen this thing run? This play has been run for at least the last 5 years to perfection, and every time it ends with the guy getting his deal. Well, most of the time it does, not every time. If it doesn't end in the guy getting his deal, it ends in a guy saying, trade me, and they go, oh, okay, go find a trade partner, and then he either gets traded or he gets released. Those are the three outcomes. But most of the time when this is a Hall of Fame player we're talking about here. And generally, you don't trade away future Hall of Fame players unless there's no way that you can reconcile the differences. I didn't know if the money was really something Myles Garrett was after. Who's not after money? We had this conversation before. But I told you he wasn't going anywhere. You guys didn't want to listen, right? I said the Browns have no reason. There's no motivation if you're the Browns to trade Myles Garrett. It doesn't make sense. Even if you were to trade him, you are still going to eat over $16 million, I believe it was, worth of cap space. Even if you traded him, there was no positives to trading Myles Garrett if you're the Cleveland Browns. Zero. Yet, fans still wanted to believe and hold out hope that Myles Garrett was going to be available. And I said, look, if I were you, I wouldn't wait on Myles Garrett to pursue some of these other guys that may be available, because I think you're waiting on something that's not going to transpire. It's almost like chasing a ghost. You're never going to catch it. Well, Trey Hendrickson still exists. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but Zadarius Smith is now on the free agent market. Look, options, he's 32 years old. He's no spring chicken. And the Lions traded for him and then let him go for a reason, obviously. But options, people, options. Here's a name that you probably haven't been paying much attention to that maybe you should. I'm not the biggest fan of this guy, so I'm not going to, and that's why I haven't been pushing him on you. But Dayo Abendejo of the Indianapolis Colts, just a name to keep in mind that he fits the timeline. He's 25. He's young. He had a really good season. Then he had a knee injury. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then this past year didn't have the numbers that, you know, would scream at me, hey, I'm good. You can come get me. Right. But he's interesting. He fits the timeline and he's young. He's 25 years old. I wouldn't be shocked if they threw a little money his way. But again, I don't trust him, which is why I haven't brought it to your doorstep. But it wouldn't shock me if they went in that direction. But the play here is still Trey Hendrickson. But again, the market, things just got a lot more difficult. Because if you wanted to play hard to get with the Bengals, who again, that's not the team you want to play hard to get with, because they don't give a shit. They'll force Trey Hendrickson to play under this 1 year, $18 million deal. They don't give a shit, right? He can be as frustrated as he wants to be. It's the same shit we saw with the Browns with Myles Garrett. If I don't want to, I don't have to. And if you want to sit out football games, be my guest, knock yourself out. The Browns have done this, or the Bengals have done this before. They did it with Carson Palmer, right? Where they said, oh, you don't want to play? And he said, yeah, I'm going to sit out games. I said, okay, go ahead. Sit out games, bro. When you're ready to come to your senses, we'll be here. He sat out games, and then they said, hey, you ready to play ball or what? He's like, yeah, I'm all right. You won. All right. You twisted my arm. I'm back. They're like, all right, that's what we thought. Shut the hell up. Then they traded his ass, right? They made their point, right? You're not going to punk us. You're not going to make us do anything we don't want to do. So if I said this about DK, it was going to take a second round pick. People have been saying, oh, Trey Hendrickson, 1 year. That 1 year deal, that 1 year left on his contract, that shit don't mean nothing. When it's a player of his caliber, I don't give a shit about the age. They're looking at the production he's produced the last 2 years, and they're saying, if we're going to give this guy up, you got to compensate us for what he could be for you. I don't care. You got to pay him. If we don't trade him, we expect double-digit sacks again next year. So you're paying us for what you think he's going to provide, and we know he can provide. We don't give a shit about 1 year left. We don't give a shit about him being 30. We don't give a shit about you having to pay him. None of that. That don't bother us. That don't mean nothing to us. If you want him, you got to give us what we feel like is reasonable compensation. And like I told you, to me, it starts at a 2. Starts at a second round pick. And it could go up from there, right? But I digress. Let's talk about the things. I just find it funny that I saw a lot of upset, ornery, and very triggered Commanders fans when Myles Garrett decided to sign that contract. It's a lot of money, man. And I saw a lot of triggered Commanders fans who felt betrayed. They felt used. That was hilarious to me. That was hilarious. But he was never ours to begin with. I don't understand what all the uproar is about, what all the outrage is about. He was never ours. What are you upset about? And I told y'all, do not get your hopes up. I told you guys this a million times. Rio kept saying, I was speaking it into existence, and I said, you go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you, but I can't co-sign that because I know the outcome. I've been doing this for long enough. I know the outcome. Okay? You go right ahead. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And I wasn't wrong. But let's talk about the thing, something else I wasn't wrong about. I told you about John damn Bates. What did I tell y'all? So many of y'all wanted to get this man off the roster. John Bates, this, that, and the third. I said, do you understand the value he holds in the NFL? There were teams waiting for this man to hit free agency. You sit here with your shit. There were teams sitting and waiting for John Bates to hit free agency so they could snatch him up. You know how valuable a commodity, a young blocking tight end is? We got Mercedes Lewis, who is 79 years old, still playing in the league because he is a valued commodity, a blocking tight end who can occasionally catch the football. Do you understand how valuable it is to have a guy that's like 20, whatever John Bates is, 27 years old, who can block, who is a willing blocker, who is young? Are you kidding me? And they didn't just sign John Bates to a 1 or they signed John Bates to a 3-year deal. That tells you how much they value John Bates. So some of you out there owe John damn Bates an apology. Because I told you he was going to be back. I had somebody when I did my first Commanders free agency video where we were talking about the guys that we would bring back. And somebody said, oh, I'm done with you, Louie. I can't listen to you because you got John Bates coming back. He's ass. And I was like, you haven't been paying attention, have you? You don't get it. You know, that's what I was saying to myself. I just didn't respond because clearly that person didn't get it. He didn't get it. And it's not my place to wag my finger at him and tell him that he's unaware of what's going on around him. That's not my job. My job is to bring you the best in Commanders content and let you do with it what you will. That's my job. I told you John Bates would be back here. On a 3-year deal, I didn't know it would be 3 years, but they value John Bates. You should value John Bates. You should value John Bates. And for me, this John Bates being back is not an indictment on Ben Sinnott because they did not bring Ben Sinnott here to do what John Bates does. John Bates is here to strictly block people. Occasionally, you toss him a bone and you throw him the football, right? Every now and again, like the Lions game at the very end when we were looking to put it away, teams lose sight of 87 because he doesn't get the football. So you can sneak him out of the backfield on a corner route. He'll be wide open, and Jaden can hit him, and you can pretty much put a team away, right? But for the most part, John Bates is taking his helmet and he's sticking it between somebody's numbers and he's driving them back, or he's sealing off a block, and he's doing his job and he's doing the dirty work that most guys in this league who catch the football don't want to do. We didn't bring Ben Sinnott here to be John Bates. We brought him here to be a receiving option, which he can still do next season. And so this, to me, doesn't change Ben Sinnott's role in terms of how much he can be featured this upcoming season. He's got to show them that he is ready to be what they drafted him to be. And if he shows them that, I have no doubts that he'll get on the field, because this is the last year of Zach Ertz here. Zach Ertz can do exactly what he did this year or last year. This year, I don't know if they're bringing him back, because at some point they're going to turn the reins over to Ben Sinnott. Or at least that's the way it should go. We'll see if it does go that way or not. Speaking of Zach Ertz, he's back on a one-year deal. Again, these were things that we expected, right? We expected Bobby Wagner to be back. We expected Zach Ertz to be back, and they both got very similar deals. Wagner's, I think, gets up to potentially $9.5 million with incentives and bonuses if, he reaches some of those milestones. Ertz deal is a little bit less. I think it's like somewhere in that 8 neighborhood that it could get up to 9 or so with incentives, or it might be like 6. It could get up to 8, whatever the case may be. Good for John Bates, good for John Bates too, but good for Zach Ertz. And we expected it. We expected Bobby Wagner to be back. We expected Zach Ertz to be back. We expected Dante Fowler Jr. to be back. Let's talk about some guys that haven't signed contracts yet. Before we get to some rumors that are surrounding the Commanders here. Dante Fowler Jr., not the happiest camper on social media. Apparently, his services are being taken for granted, and he's sick and tired of it, apparently. At least that's what he's saying to us. So I'm going to read you his quote on his tweet. This is from Dante Fowler himself on X at 8:01 p.m. this evening. He writes, "The disrespect. I can't take it anymore." Uh-oh. 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 The disrespect. He can't take it anymore. What is he referring to? I think I know what he's talking about. Okay. Let me clear my throat. Get a little stretch in. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. I got my hand up. Why do I have my hand up right now? I'm guilty as charged. I'm guilty. All right. Color me burgundy. I'm guilty. All right. Go ahead, arrest me. I took Dante Fowler Jr. for granted. I can't speak for any of you, but I was disrespectful. I'm one of the ones. Because I just assumed he'd never leave Dan Quinn's side, right? Just, that's his guy. He told us this when he got here, and I just looked at him and his career and everywhere he's been, and pretty much everywhere Dan Quinn has gone, he's followed, and I just said, he's not going anywhere. He's not leaving Dan Quinn. But you know what I didn't factor in? You know what I didn't take into consideration? And this is on me. This is on me, right? This is a boo-boo on my part. Is I didn't take into consideration that the man had double-digit sacks this season. And even though I knew he had double-digit sacks, that shit means something. It does. Teams are looking for guys that can get to the quarterback. And look, we know what Dante Fowler Jr. is. He's no run stopper. We know what he is. He's no first and second down player. He's a situational pass rusher that we were pressed that was pressed into action last year because we had injuries and we didn't have good depth nor quality opposite of Dorrance Armstrong last year. So he had to play, which is fine. And he exceeded all of our expectations. He was better than we could have imagined in our wildest dreams. None of us had a guy that the year prior had 4.5 sacks. None of us expected double-digit sacks. And you know what? It's costing us now. Had he had 6.5 sacks this season, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. But he had 10.5 sacks. And at one point, he was on the trajectory to be a Pro Bowler last season. And now he wants to be paid like it. And I don't blame him. I can't be mad at this man for trying to parlay a double-digit sack season into some extra money. And he probably went to the organization and said, hey, I got you 10 sacks last season, 10.5, I believe the number was. I'm a valued commodity. You guys need me on a team that doesn't get a ton of pressure on the quarterback. So what's the number? What are we talking here? All right. What are we looking at? Like 12 million, right? Like 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. And they was like, yeah, Dante. My man. Hey, it's Dan. It's me, buddy. Come on. Come on, man. We go way back. You trying to squeeze me for double digits? Come on, Dante, man. I was thinking more along the lines of 7. And he's like, 7? That was the old me. I played for less than 5 million for you last year, bro. What was the number? 6? I think it was 4.5 last year. Might have been 6. No more than 6 million. Come on, man. 7 million, that's slap in the face. Yeah, no, I was thinking like 12 million, man. Like 2 years, 24 million. And they were like, come on, Dante, come on, bro. He's like, I know y'all got it, though. I mean, this is the part that sucks, is when they know your financials, right? They know your situation. I know you good for it, bro. It's like a family member trying to squeeze you for a couple bucks. And you offer principle of like, nah, I can't do that. I can't do it. But they like, I know you got it though, bro. I know you good for it though. And you're like, no. It's not a question of do I have it, it's do I want to spend it? Do I want to give it to you? Right now, that answer's kind of looking like no. And I'm like, hey, ho. Hey, everybody just calm down, relax. Hey. Everybody just relax. Don't nothing but the money move, right? Everybody calm down. Don't nobody move but the money, right? Don't nothing move but the money. Everybody sit down and relax. Let's just talk about this. We don't need to lose Dante Fowler Jr. over a couple of $1 million. Y'all stop your foolishness. Yes, he doesn't stop the run. I don't give a shit. We need guys that can get to the quarterback. Everybody calm down. Let's just talk about this. It's just a couple million. What are we talking about here? As long as he's not asking for anything ridiculous, we should be able to get this done, right? Now, if he's like, yo, I need 15 million. Oh, whoa, Dante, bro. Go, matter of fact, hit free agency. Let's see what you can get, right? But if the number's 10, we can do 10. Stop it. We can do 10. If the number's 11, we can do 11. Stop it. The man got us 10.5 sacks last year. The man had a pick 6 last season. The man drew holding penalties. He had 4th down stops last season. Y'all better stop. Cut it out. I took him for granted because I just assumed that was Dan's boy. He'd be back. I didn't need to work hard to get him back. But the double-digit sacks say elsewise, right? They say something else. Can't we all just get along? Huh? Come on, Dante. Come on, man. Lift your cup up, Dante. We here, bro. Come on. Cups up. Come on back home, man. This doesn't need to turn ugly. We family, man. Let's get this done. Now, Jeremy Chinn, on the other hand, I'm more inclined to listen to offers out there for Jeremy Chinn because I'm like, hey, I mean, I like Jeremy. I don't love Jeremy Chinn. I told y'all that already. He's good. Is he great? I don't know about that. I'll let the market determine what Jeremy Chinn is worth, and if he gets some crazy money out there, it was nice doing business with you. I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope everything works out for you. Well, we can go elsewhere, right? However, because there are options in the draft too that will be that will be available in our range. And, although safety hasn't been a position that we've talked about, there's a couple that I've really like in this draft, and they'll be available. May not be available, or it may not make sense at 29, but may still be available at 61 and will make a ton of sense then. The guy that I'm thinking about, he probably won't be available at 61. Who am I kidding? But I don't know what's going to happen in the draft. We may be able to get out of 29. Who knows? We'll see. That's a different conversation for a different day. We're talking about free agency right now. Bottom line is, if Jeremy Chinn and his agent are wilding, which I feel like they probably are, and I get it. I understand why they're wilding. The man played well last year. Not well enough for me to take that number higher than it needs to be, which is why you go out, you test free agency, you see what the number is. And if I'm the Commanders, and they a lot of times with players and their agents, it's strictly principle based. Like, if you allow me to hit free agency, I'm not going to give you an opportunity to match unless I really truly want to come back. If you disrespect me, because that's how these players take it. They take it as a sign of disrespect that I performed for you, probably outplayed my contract, but it was a 1-year deal, and it was a 1-year prove it deal, and I proved it. And now I come to you and say, hey, I'm ready for my reward. What you got for me? And you're like, yeah, about that. Tell you what, you really did a good job for us, and we like you a lot. Hey, Jeremy, come on. We really like you. But we don't want to pay more for you than we feel like we need to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to let you go out there, see what's available. You see what's going on, and then you come back and you talk to us, right? If you do that to a player, generally, they get a contract, they're going to sign that contract because they feel disrespected. So we may be moving on from Jeremy Chinn, and if that happens, okay, cool. If they bring him back, I'm all for it. Whatever they decide to do with him, I'm not on Dante. I'm like, hey, bro, come on now. You know how excited, y'all remember how excited I was when I was like, yo, we got a situational pass rusher. Like, yeah, I haven't seen one of these since ... And I couldn't even tell you the last time we had one. I was so excited. And then look what he did. I'm not ready to move on and lose my situational pass rusher. Not when we don't actually have a havoc-wreaking pass rusher on the roster right now. We don't even have a guy. He's the guy. He led our team in sacks last season. I don't want to let him walk away. But it's a business, and I get it. So things are getting interesting. What's the holdup with Tress Way? I'm still like, what are we doing here? There's certain ones where I'm like, okay, got the Zach Ertz one done, got the Bobby Wagner one done, got John Bates done. Okay, where's Tress Way? Okay, what are we doing? Where's my punter? Why are we kind of stalling and delaying here? Like, what are we doing? Are you really gonna move on from Tress Way? I know that's not necessarily your guy, but that's our guy, and he's a lifer, so take care of him. Like, let's not play around here and let's get our guy back, right? I expect them to take care of Tress Way. So that's something that I feel like should get done. Like, don't piss me off. They'll get that done. I trust them to get that done. Now let's talk about some rumors. Rumors. Oh, yo. Let's talk about some rumors. So, rumor from Diana Rossini, and she's had a couple of Commander nuggets here of late. This one, I was like, I'm good. Yeah, I'm a pass. Somebody had brought up a reunion with Momo, and I was like, yeah, no. A sheriff reunion, not interested. A reunion with Momo, not interested. But Diana Rossini said, hey, Commanders are thought to be very interested in Morgan Moses, who is a free agent, was with the New York Jets last season after spending about 3 years with the Baltimore Ravens after we let him go. He signed with Baltimore, played well for them, went on to the Jets last year. I don't know what he did out there. That offensive line was a disappointment. So was Aaron Rodgers. But again, another discussion for another day. Momo's like 70 years old at this point. And I'm like, are you really going to swap out Momo, or excuse me, are you really going to swap out Andrew Wiley for Momo? Is that even an upgrade at this point? Like, what are we doing? That can't, because it's not like Morgan Moses is a left tackle. He's a right tackle, and that's it. Okay. He can't play anything else. He offers you no other value. Morgan Moses is a right tackle. So if you're bringing him in, that means you're going to cut Andrew Wiley for his $6 to $7 million of cap space, and you're going to keep it pushing, which, again, none of us would be crying over Andrew Wiley being cut. But you're cutting him for a 34-year-old tackle. Where's the psychological sense in that? You need to wash your face and get your mind right. Like, hey, what are we doing? That's not going to help your run game, adding Morgan Moses. I don't know if that's even an upgrade in the pass protection department. What are they, like, that makes no sense to me. That can't be something that we're going to do. Unless Morgan Moses is at the point of his career where he believes he's a swing tackle. Morgan Moses probably believes he's still a starting right tackle. And I don't blame him for feeling that way. So unless you're telling me that Morgan Moses is coming in here to be a backup tackle, which I'm cool with Cornelius Lucas personally because he can play both left and right. What are we doing? Right? Like, that can't be real. Where do we stand on the Trey Hendrickson situation? So, Diana Rossini and Starbucks man reported Schultz, I'm talking about Schultz, that we are among several teams interested in trading for Trey Hendrickson, which, again, isn't a secret. But with the Myles Garrett extension, where he's being paid $40 million a year AAV, that really sends the Trey Hendrickson market sky high, right? Because now there were teams that was like, hey, look, you trying to play me. I'm going to just wait for Myles. If that's the shit you trying to pull, I got Harold Landry. I got Myles Garrett. Like, F that shit. I'm out. Now Landry's gone. Garrett's going, oh, hey, I'm back. So that second round pick you was talking about, man, how you want it? You want 20s? You want 50s? You want, how you want it, right? You want 10s, 5s? I got whatever you need. And also you got to pay him. What does that look like? Don't know, right? Decisions, which is why another report that we heard, and this was from Albert Breer. So again, these are people that are in the know. Albert Breer says, hey, look out for Deo Odangbo, the edge rusher from Indianapolis, Deo Odangbo. Look out. 25 years old. Matter of fact, let's look up Dayo's numbers. I remember 2 years ago, I was saying, yo, shit, Dayo, I think he had like 8 sacks. I was like, oh, shit. I did not like Dayo Odangbo coming out of college. He was raw. He was big. He was long, but he was just like clunky. And I was like, yeah, everybody was like drooling over his upside. I wasn't a fan. And then he won me over a couple of years ago. He won me over. And I said, you know what? Maybe I was wrong about this kid. Let's look him up. Let's look up Dayo Odangbo and see what he did. I'm pretty sure 2022 was his breakout season. He then got injured in 2023. He came back last year and was a bit of a disappointment. That's my guess. I could be wrong about Dayo Odangbo, but let's find out. I'm about to look him up right now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Let's get him. All right. So Dayo Odangbo is 25 years old, as I mentioned. He had 8 sacks. Okay, so I was wrong. He did not get injured. He had 1 sack in his rookie season, no starts, 10 games played. It's 17 games played in 2022, 4 starts, 5 sacks. All right, so he went from 1 to 5. That's a big jump, right? Then that jump took another step in 2023, his 3rd season in the league. 17 games played, but he only started 1 game, yet he still was able to give you 8 sacks in that season and a forced fumble as well to boot. And then last year, a little bit of a disappointment. They said, okay, this kid's a stud. Let's give him the starting job and more snaps, and he should provide us more production, right? That's the thought process. I mean, that makes sense. 17 games played, 14 starts. He had no more than 4 starts in any of the seasons, the 3 seasons prior to last year. They gave him 14 starts, 745 snaps last season. The previous high was 622, so over 120 more snaps and 10 more starts than any other season, and he only produced 3 sacks. So again, and he could have been dealing with injuries, and he could have been, reasons for that, but the numbers are what they are, which is why Indianapolis, kind of like, let's see what you get on the market. We're not really interested in bringing you back right now. So that's a guy, and he forced 2 fumbles last year. So that's a guy to keep an eye on. He's young. He can stop the run. He's talented, but I got my doubts about him, right? I think we're looking for more of a sure thing right now, more so than a guy that has upside, but you're not really sure what exactly you're going to get. That's Dayo Odangbo, but that's another rumor that's swirling around. And this one, as I mentioned, from Albert Breer. So if Albert Breer is talking about it, there could be some legs to this thing. So that's another guy you should probably keep in mind. I'm just telling you, I don't know if they're willing to give up what Cincinnati is asking for. And Cincinnati has every right to be greedy and to try to extract every ounce of draft capital out of Trey Hendrickson if they can get it. And there are desperate teams. I've already talked about it. There are a number of teams that could use a Trey Hendrickson. A lot of them. Hell, there are a number of them in our own conference that could use a Trey Hendrickson, let alone the AFC. And if I'm Cincinnati, I don't know if I care necessarily where I send him. This isn't a, hey, we got to send him out of the conference type of deal. Whoever gives me the best compensation, that's what I'm trying to do business with. Even if that's the Chiefs, I'll send them to Kansas City if they're talking about giving me their 1st round pick. And nobody else is. But the likelihood is he'll end up, if they do trade him, he'll probably end up in the NFC. And there are plenty of teams that are interested in the NFC to add a guy like Trey Hendrickson, including us. So once again, that's an interesting situation and dilemma, but I like the options that are available. None of them are young, including Trey Hendrickson himself. He's not young. That's why Deo Odangbo is so interesting, because he is young. There is upside. He still has not reached his full potential. He's not in his prime yet. And so he's heading into that direction. This was a guy that came into the league fairly young. Obviously, he's 25 and he's hitting the free agent market. This is the guy that came into the league at 20, 21 years old. He was super young and raw coming out of Vandy. So you're hoping that 8-sack season a couple of seasons ago, he can rekindle that and take it to the next level. And you want to be a part of that. But there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that he gets back to that level ever again. He could be a 4-sack guy the rest of his career. And you could be paying for that for the next couple of seasons. And so that's the danger, right? That's the risk, is that you go in on a guy who hasn't had consistent production and you're essentially paying him for what you expect him to evolve into, and he never does. You're paying for potential. That's a dangerous, very risky proposition. Generally, you pay for production. That's where a guy like Zadarius Smith comes in. He had 9 sacks last year. Now, it was spread over 2 different teams. 5 with Cleveland, 4 with Detroit, but he can still get to the quarterback. He offers you versatility. You can kick him inside, like we saw with Dorrance late in the season when we had some success taking, Dorrance and moving him inside. And I think that's when Dorrance is his most dangerous, is inside. And I talked about that. That's where he was at his best with the Cowboys, inside as an interior pass rusher. Zadarius offers you that ability to do that too. So love that he got released, because that's another option for the Commanders to mull over that wasn't available. And they might have already known, the free agent wins might have already been whispering a week ago that the Lions were probably going to do that. But we didn't know he was going to get released. I didn't, at least. I can't speak for any of you. I didn't know he was getting released. So that's another option that exists for the Commanders. And I love it, because there's no Harold Landry now. He's gone. So, and not that Landry was the youngest guy in the world, but he wasn't 32 years old like Zadarius Smith is. So, again, I want no parts of Von Miller or none of these old hags that, are holding on for dear life. Von Miller's washed. His career's done. Somebody may give him a run, but it doesn't need to be us, right? To me, if Khalil Mack actually gets, and I still think he's going to end up with the Chargers, because they moved on from Boza. It just feels like Mack is a priority and should be for them, and they're just trying to hammer out numbers right now. That's the holdup why it hasn't gotten done yet. He knows that they need him, and he can play hardball, because there are other teams like us who are very interested in his services, and if they don't want to pay up, somebody else will. And so he can play hardball, put him into a corner, box him in, and then they may have to give in, right? But if he becomes available, to me, I think it's more along the lines of a Khalil Mack or a Zadarius Smith than it is a Dio Odangbo, right? But I've been telling y'all this. A lot of y'all been looking for these big names. Y'all are expecting us to go all in, this, that, and I'm like, I don't think that's what this free agency is going to represent. It's going to look a lot like last season. And the biggest difference from last year to this year is that they already came in here and acknowledged who is a commander. So a lot of those guys were on the roster last year. They got production from these guys, and they're going to look to bring some of these guys back, i.e. John Bates, i.e. Olamide Zaccheaus, i.e. Noah Brown. These are guys that I think they're very interested in bringing back, and I don't fault them for that. Noah Igbenogany, I want him back. He should be back. But these big name guys that a lot of you were thirsting after, don't think it's going to happen. And so I'm here to tell you that there's still some names out here that intrigue me, that I think fit what we do, who we are, what we stand for. And so let's talk about some of those names, because shit's going to get really interesting. I'm going to tell y'all right now, this right here is one of the most intriguing free agencies I've ever been a part of as a fan. And I've been through all of the Dan and Vinny days when they would fire up Redskin 1 and go get any and everybody, right? Every overpaid, past their prime, looking for their final big payday guy came here. Mark Carrier, Reagan Upshaw, Antoine Randall L. when he became Antoine Randall Fell. We overpaid for Adam Archuleta. We overpaid for Jeremiah Trotter. It didn't matter. We know about Deion Sanders and Jeff George and Bruce Smith, guys looking for their final paydays. Andre Reed, I think was it Andre Reed? No, I think it was Irvin Fryer. I think I'm mixing it up. We might have had some Andre Reed. I think we did have Andre Reed here on the very, 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 very back end of his career, like his last stop in the NFL. Anyway, that's what we were known for, right? And at the beginning, it was fun because we didn't know better. After the first couple of years of that bullshit, we realized that was fool's gold, and we were wasting money, and these weren't good investments, and we were trying to buy a chip, and that shit never works. This is the most anticipation I think we've had because of what we did last season. And, taking that next step is so important. And it's, again, last season is hard to top. The only thing you could do to top last season would be to go to the Super Bowl. Do you understand how high of a bar we have set right now, which is a good thing? I'm not complaining about this, by the way. I hope you guys understand this, but there's a lot of pressure on Adam Peters and this staff to follow up last season's gym with an even bigger, brighter, and shinier gym. And that's hard to do. So patience is a virtue, and I think it is in order in allowing AP and Chef P to cook and let him do what he does, right? And you may not love some of these moves that he's going to make, but ride with him. Let's see what it's about, right? So with that said, let's talk about some of the names that are available that didn't get signed today. A lot of guys went back to their old squads today. And again, we saw a lot of those things happening. Some of the guys that got released, like Devontae Adams, we talked about him. He wanted to be out on the, like, these are things that you have to take into consideration that I've told you about. Like, guys make it known where they would prefer to be. Don't ignore that, right? I told y'all Devontae Adams wanted to be out on the left coast. That's where he's from. That's where he's most comfortable. That's where he wants to be. So it's natural that he signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Rams. All of a sudden, that Rams team that was the closest to beating the Eagles in the playoffs last year, they just got better. They just got better. So now they upgraded. It's no longer Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. It's Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. They're a problem now, are the Rams. So we got to step our shit up, right? They're a problem out here now. But I told y'all that Charvarius Ward wants to be close to home. Home is Texas. Cowboys have a lot of money. They've been freeing up a lot of money here of late. Maybe it's to get a deal done with Michael Parsons. Did you see how much that price tag just went up? God, they're stupid. I love it. Again, we need to make sure we protect the Joneses at all costs, because the way they do business, it's crippling. And we love it. But that's not our problem. They've got the cap space if they want to go after a Mooney Ward. He wants to be close to home. I'm just saying, Take that stuff into consideration, right? Where guys tell you, hey, I would prefer to play close to home, or I would prefer to play on this coast. You should be listening to that. They're not just saying that for no reason. So with that said, there's still some guys at the receiver position. All the guys that I mentioned are still available, except for Tutu Atwell. Obviously, we talked about that already. But Darius Slayton is still available. I know you don't love him. Neither do I. But, I mean, these are the options that before we thought that Christian Kirk was an option. These were the options. Like, you know, I get on my son about this all the time. People kill me when they do this shit, right? But it's human nature. So I don't get too bent out of shape about it. But I always try to put people back in their proper perspective, put them back in the proper perspective that they need to be, you know? So here recently, you know, we've had to alter our schedule in our household because my wife's schedule has changed. So we've had to alter our schedule. And it's changed the schedule of the kids. And all of a sudden now, same time, right? Instead of us getting home and getting settled in and getting the kids baths and getting them sit down and eat at their normal time, everything's been pushed back a little bit because the schedule's been a little bit off here recently, but not by much, right? But in typical human fashion, we try to make things seem a lot worse because of options that are available, right? So one day we were driving home last week, and I've been giving my kids snacks to try to offset the amount of time between when we normally would get home and, you know, the new time that we're getting home. And gave them a snack or two. And my son's like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I'm starving. And I'm like, bro, it's 6:30. We would just be picking you up from after school. Stop that shit, okay? Let's not play that game, all right? Yes, you may be hungry, but you would not have been eating had we been on our normal schedule. So don't try to take advantage of the situation, right? And this is no different than that. If there was no Christian Kirk, you would have been fine with Darius Slayton, right? You would have been fine. Just like if my son had been picked up from after school at 6:30 like he normally did, instead of us being in the car on the way to pick my wife up, his mom up, he wouldn't be playing, oh, I'm so hungry, Dad. Because you wouldn't have been eating at 6:30 anyway. So stop tripping, right? Because you think I'm going to stop at McDonald's and get you something. I'm not. You're going to get them same chicken nuggets and French fries we got in the freezer at home, bro. Don't try to play me. It's the same thing here. If Christian Kirk was never available, you wouldn't be looking down your nose at Darius Slayton or Demarcus Robinson or Nick Westbrook-Akine, which I'm still looking down my nose. I don't want his ass. But you still be looking at these options and saying, oh, you know, those are solid options. But because Christian Kirk became available, or at least we thought he was going to become available, Marquise Brown, I told y'all, there were certain guys I didn't talk about. And I told y'all, I'm not talking about them because I don't expect them to be available. I told y'all Hollywood Brown wasn't going to be available. I said, you think the Chiefs invested a year in him last year for them not to run it back again? You really think they're just going to let him walk away? What was the psychological sense in that? It's not like he just stunk for them and they're like, nah, we're good. We'll go in a different direction. He got hurt. They had big plans for him. They brought him back on another one-year deal. I didn't think he would be available, which is why I didn't talk about it, which is why I didn't talk about Myles Garrett, because I didn't think he would be available. Elijah Moore, Josh Palmer is a name to look out for. I like Josh Palmer a lot, and he's young. He's 25 years old. The only question I have is Josh Palmer going to cost you more than you're looking to spend for a guy of his caliber, a guy of his quality? Because there are not a lot of young receivers. Again, I told you, Elijah Moore, Josh Palmer, and De'Ami Brown are the three really young, talented receivers. Again, not a lot of production from those guys. I think Palmer of the three has the best production. Let's look up Josh Palmer real quick. I'm pretty sure what I'm going to find was that Josh Palmer I bet you there's an 800-yard season. That season where everybody was hurt. Keenan Allen was hurt. Mike Williams was hurt. I bet you that was an 800-yard season for Josh Palmer. Let's see. Nope. I was right. 2022, 898 yards. I don't know if Dyami Brown has 898 yards combined in his four seasons in the league. He had that in one season. 2023, so his lowest, I'm tripping. Hold on. I'm talking about snaps. That ain't yards. Same thing, though. That one season in 2022, when he had 898 snaps, he had 769 yards. So I was right there. On 72 catches and 3 touchdowns. He's productive. I don't think Dyami Brown has 769 yards receiving in his entire career combined. Elijah Moore may not have 769 yards combined in his entire career. So the other guys that I talked about on that list of young players that are talented, that I call them young upside wide receivers, they don't have the profile of Josh Palmer. He had in his last 3 years, 769, 581 yards receiving in 2023 on just 38 catches. So that's a hell of an average, right? 39 receptions for 584 the following year. So this past year. So he's a big play guy. He's physical. He'll block in the run game. He's dealt with some injuries, but as the games played would suggest, 15 this past year, 10 the year before, 16 in his second season, and 17 in his rookie season. So he's had some injuries, but nothing major, right? Just nagging injuries. And they've asked him to do more than they should have ever been asking him to do, right? He was never supposed to be a number one, probably never even supposed to be a number 2 option. He's probably always supposed to be a number 3 option. And there were times in LA when they asked him to be the number 1 wide receiver. So he, to me, is the most talented, like the most productive. I won't say he's the most talented. He's the most productive of the guys that are young wide receivers. So he's interesting, to say the least. I think there's going to be a market for him. Matter of fact, I think you could see somebody throw a little bit of cash, just like I think somebody's going to throw some money at Dyami Brown, right? So, we'll see what ultimately happens with Josh Palmer, but that's another guy that I would really try to go after if I'm the Commanders. I'd be really excited if we were able to get him. They're not going to do anything at tight end, as we've seen with the re-signings of both tight ends. That tight end room is going to look exactly the same, and that's what we predicted, or not we. That's what I predicted when the season first ended. When I did my Commanders free agency look, where we just talked about strictly Commanders free agents and what we thought would happen. I said, I expect, because the tight end position of all the positions, tight end felt like one of those positions where you didn't have to do anything at that position right now. It didn't make sense. You already had enough positions that needed upgrading. Tight end wasn't one of them. Could you use an upgrade? Sure. Did you need one? That's the question. No, the answer is no. You didn't need an upgrade. You want one, because do we trust Zach Ertz to stay healthy for 17 games again? I don't think many of us do, but I'm not putting that in the atmosphere. But man's, 33, 34 years old. Like, you don't expect him to stay, healthy again. I mean, to me, he barely made it through the season last year, but that's no here nor there. The bottom line is they're going to run it back at the tight end position. So nothing to see there. Running back, I don't see them doing much of anything there. I think you're going to see them draft a running back. We've been, them bringing back Chris Rodriguez. I think it spells that they're just going to draft one and be done with that, which I think most of us are okay with that. Offensive line, that to me is the most intriguing, like, positional group, because we have no idea what they're going to do. None. That Morgan Moses thing threw me for a loop. I'm like, Momo? What? Ronnie Stanley is no longer an option, so you're just left with Cam Robinson if you're looking to upgrade the tackle position. Who the hell wants Cam Robinson? I don't. Like, beggars can't be choosers. I'm not begging. I'm going to be choosy when we're protecting 5. And if you say, hey, you can go out and spend a nice piece of change on a dude that's basic, well, shit, we got that already. The hell we need to go out here and give somebody, an older guy, some money to do the things that we already haven't done right now with Brandon Coleman and Andrew Wiley. Like, I don't need to spend money to have the same type of results. For what? There could be something done at guard. I expect them to do something at guard. It won't be anything earth-shattering, but like I said, my biggest thing with the O-line is that we need to improve the depth. That's my biggest issue, is the depth and the quality behind the starters isn't good enough. You do that, and I'll be happy. Next year, we can really fortify the offensive line. Right now, it's more because you're not going to have a choice next year. Andrew Wiley's contract is up. You'll know what Brandon Coleman is by then. Everything will be more crystallized. You'll probably be in a better position to say, all right, Coleman, if he's not a tackle, you go inside the guard. And that's when you could take Allegretti and make him a core backup, which is what he probably is supposed to be in this league, right? Backing up your 3 interior offensive line positions. And then you can go get your left tackle of the future next year in the draft in the first round, theoretically speaking. Again, if everything works out the way that it's supposed to. But and then go get you a free agency right tackle, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, the offensive line is just in flux. We have absolutely zero idea what they're going to do there. Defensively, defensive tackle is interesting. Obviously, with the release of Jonathan Allen, we don't have a ton of great depth along the defensive line. So, shit, your guess is as good as mine. I was eyeballing dudes like Jaron Reed and free agency, and he went back to Seattle. So I'm like, Tershawn Wharton is an interesting name with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had his best season of his career, 6 sacks, I believe he had this past season. He's an undersized defensive tackle. I know that shit is like me saying the word positional flex to you. You don't want to hear undersized and defensive tackle in the same sentence. I know, but hear me out. He's a disruptor. He's a guy that's constantly in the backfield. He can get pressure on the quarterback. And that was a damn good Chiefs defense, and he was a part of it. Now, again, it makes it a lot easier when you're playing next to Chris Jones. We don't have one of those on our team, so there's that as well. But Tershawn Wharton is an interesting guy. I wouldn't be shocked if they were sniffing around him. But again, we'll see what they decide to do at defensive tackle. If anything, again, it's a deep defensive tackle draft class. They may decide to draft another one. We drafted one in the second round. They may double up and draft another one in the second round, right? We'll see. Edge is, after offensive line, edge rusher is the most intriguing position for this team as to what they're going to do, because we've gone through this like roller coaster of emotions at edge rusher. Obviously, the Myles Garrett thing captivated a lot of you, not me, because, again, I didn't anticipate him getting traded. I didn't think he was doing this for the money, but I just thought the Browns just weren't going to engage in that kind of, conversation with him. Why? It doesn't benefit us. But ultimately, we've seen a lot of guys do this thing where, hey, trade me, and then they get a new contract. And it's always about it's usually about the money, right? Even when, like, the Jonathan Allen situation, that was about money. Harold Landry in Tennessee, that was about money. Guys wanted an extension. They were on the last year of their deals, and teams were like, no, we're not giving it to you. Well, then trade me. Okay, cool, right? Edge is interesting because you got Trey Hendrickson, which we're not out of that. I wouldn't be shocked if, we ended up being a winner of that sweepstakes. But, again, it's going to cost you. Khalil Mack is another option if he were to hit free agency. I just still think he's going back to the Los Angeles Chargers when it's all said and done. But that's another option should he be available. Zadarius Smith is another, and I'm all about adding Zadarius. I would add Zadarius Smith even if you were able to get your hands on a Khalil Mack. I would add another guy like Zadarius Smith if at all possible, right? again, he probably thinks he's still a starter in this league. And there are other teams that would agree with him. Like, you don't think the Atlanta Falcons would sign a 32-year-old Zadarius Smith and give him a starting job? Yeah, they would. Absolutely. They would do it in a heartbeat. So, again, I don't know if you're going to be able to sell a guy like Zadarius Smith if you go out and sign a Khalil Mack on, hey, we want you to be one of our main, especially if you lose Dante Fowler Jr. You're going to need another guy. Like, all of this was based off of Dante Fowler Jr. being back. If he's not back, you're really in a world of trouble on the defensive line because you don't have shit as is at defensive end. You literally have Dorrance Armstrong, Javonte John Baptiste, and that's it. They like Jalen Holmes a lot, and they may ultimately bring him back. But again, like, that shit ain't enough. We realize that. Even if Holmes and DFJ were back, you still wanted somebody to add to that mix. So edge rusher is interesting. I told you I don't sleep on Chauncey Golson, who was a former Dallas Cowboy, who had the best season of his career. We'll see if that happens. I expect them to bring Jalen Holmes back. It's not going to cost you next to anything. So there are options for the Commanders, but ultimately you want one of those big fish. You want a Trey Hendrickson. You want a Zadarius Smith. You want a Khalil Mack. One of those three guys needs to be a Commander. That's what it feels like. None of those guys may ultimately be Commanders. So we'll see. The edge rusher is really intriguing. It really is. I'm fascinated with what ends up happening there. And there's still Hassan Reddick. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want Hassan Reddick. I'm good. Thanks. But no thanks. I see somebody in the comment section says, Morgan Moses play right tackle. Wiley can kick inside. Wiley did play inside for the Chiefs as well. He can play both guard positions, right? So, I mean, with that makes a lot more sense than cutting him, right? To take Wiley, kick him inside the right guard until Cosme comes back, and then Wiley can be your, swing interior offensive lineman. And the only thing is he can't play center, but you got to go out and get a backup center. We talked about that already. You got to go get a guy that you feel comfortable. And again, it can't be Michael Dieter. We did that. Don't want to do it again, right? We need something else there as the backup center. Whether that's a guy you draft, a guy you sign in free agency, we just need an upgrade over Michael Dieter. So that's going to be interesting. Corner, you know where I stand. I want Michael Jackson. He screams Commander to me. Screams it from the mountaintops. And he gives me the same vibes that I told y'all Jeremy Chinn and Frankie Louvu gave me last year when I said, hey, we're going to go out and get those guys. I'm beating the table for Michael Jackson, but I think Charvarius Ward is the first option, and I'm going to be just as ecstatic and elated if he's the guy. I believe in both of those dudes. Michael Jackson, though, to me, has higher upside than Mooney Ward. But Ward is 30. Jackson is 28, and there's not a lot of mileage on that 28. That's a low mileage 28. That's that 2021. That's that 2019 vehicle that only has 32,000 miles on it. Like, shit, 2019 only 32,000 miles. And then you realize it's a couple of old people that owned it, right? Some older, elderly people that don't do anything but drive to the store, maybe church on Sunday, and come back home, and that's it. They ain't running the streets with that joint. It's in great condition. Low mileage? Yeah, let me get that. That's Michael Jackson at 28 years old. Low mileage. Ain't a lot of wear and tear on that body, man. A lot of good football ahead of him. Again, it's the same conversation I just had about Dio Odangbo. The production ain't there, and you don't know for sure you're going to get the guy that you need. You know, you kind of rolling the dice, hoping that this guy it comes up nice. Whereas with Mooney Ward, you know what you're getting, but he's also older. And at some point, that cliff is coming, right? At some point, he gonna hit that wall and you be like, oh shit. He ain't coming back. He's cooked. That wall might not come for 4 more years for Mooney Ward. Who are we to say? He could be like Darius Slay, where he just keep playing good football year in, year out. The wall really don't hit for another 3-4 years. Or it could hit next year for all we know. So again, some TDs have to be made by this organization. That's for sure. They already brought a kicker back. I think all of us are in unison agreeing that should not preclude this team from drafting a kicker in the 7th round or getting one as a priority free agent as soon as the draft is done. There's no reason for us to go to camp with one kicker, and I don't assume that they're going to do that. I don't think for 1 second they're going to do that. They didn't sign Zane Gonzalez to a 3-year deal, which would have shown confidence, like they did. I think your boy had signed like a 2-year deal, 2 or 3-year deal when we had signed him initially. I don't think he might have signed a 1-year deal while I'm sitting here saying that. But they're going to bring in some competition at kicker, I believe. So a lot of interesting stuff happening. Some of the things that we've seen happen with some of these teams indirectly affect the Commanders, because there were a lot of guys that another name off the board, DJ Jones, was a defensive tackle that I was kind of side-eyeing from the Denver Broncos. They just re-upped with him, so that's off the board. So again, that's what this is about, man. A lot of teams are going to take care of their stuff, as they should. A lot of teams are going to take care of their stuff. All right, I don't think anything else major has happened other than DJ Jones. So, yeah. Calm before the storm. That's where we are. Calm before the storm. Nothing happened over the last 48 hours that shocked me. Did I see DK Metcalf being traded? Yep. To the Steelers? No. But did I see him traded? Yeah. That wasn't a shock. Did I see Myles Garrett staying with the Browns? Yeah, I did. Did I see him signing a massive extension that would net him $40 per year? Nah. He told me it wasn't about the money. He lied to me, to my face, which is fine. They do it all the time. But I didn't see him playing for anybody but the Cleveland Browns. Not surprised. Right. Harold Landry to the Patriots. Are you surprised? I'm not. I told you that was a realistic possibility that he was going to meet up with his boy, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel called the Eagles for A.J. Brown. Like he's trying to get the band back together. You should have known Harold Landry was going to make a beeline for New England. Are you surprised? I'm not. So nothing that has happened today, nothing that's transpired that has affected that we were interested in, none of that has been surprising. All of the stuff that we were talking about prior to us thinking it could be available, we didn't know Harold Landry was going to get cut. He wanted to be traded. We thought he could get cut, but we didn't know. Before we were talking Harold Landry, we were talking Trey Hendrickson. He's still available. Before we were talking Trey Hendrickson, before he was given permission to seek a trade, we were talking Khalil Mack. He's still available. Nothing's changed. Myles Garrett was always a pipe dream. Well, he's not available anymore. So that's off the table. So you don't even have to sit there and let your mind wander anymore. Stop that, Aki, before I send shots to your body. Right? That's over with. Move on. All the shit that we've been talking about, it's still there. All of it. None of the stuff that we were looking at before we thought other stuff that's more shiny more exciting became available, or at least we thought it's all there. Christian Kirk wasn't available. We were talking about all of these guys, the Darius Slaytons and the DeMarcus Robinsons and the Chris Godwin. All of those dudes are still available. Keenan Allen's still available, even though I don't think any of those guys are going to end up here. All of those dudes are still available. Christian Kirk was here today, gone tomorrow. Before we even we got to romanticize about what that looked like, and before we could even allow ourselves to really get comfortable with the idea of him being here, he was gone. Same with Harold Landry. But again, those things happened so late in the game. We had already been thinking about things way before those guys became available. So nothing should have changed in your mind. All of the stuff that we talked about, pretty much still available. I told y'all, I said, a lot of those big names that you're intrigued by, you're not going to have a shot at them. The Ronnie Stanleys, the Myles Garretts, the you name it. Like all of the guys that ended up getting contracts from their former teams, we talked about, I said, bro, don't get your hopes up. A lot of these guys, if you're a good football player that holds value, most teams are going to try to do everything in their power to get you back. And we're seeing that. Teams take care of their guys. So let's get to the comment section. My boy Huncho 6. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My boy Huncho 6. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, sup, Lou? Sup, my boy? The Geno trade surprised me the most. It did. You got me. Hands up. You got me. That shit caught me off guard. I knew they were shopping Geno last year. Geno had another strong season. And I'm like, what's the alternative? That shit shocked me. You're not wrong. You think Sam went? Nah, I don't think this is. They got a plan. And it does not involve Sam Howell. It does involve a Sam, though. And that Sam is probably Darnold, but not Howell. They didn't move on from Geno to give the guy that when he played last year looked like a deer caught in headlights. There's no way Sam Howell is getting the keys to that vehicle. This is them going in a different direction, and I think they've got somebody in mind, which is why they were comfortable enough moving on from Geno. But we'll see. I was surprised about that. Was the one that definitely surprised me. I agree with that. Biggie Steve, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Biggie Steve writes, I'm so pissed we didn't get DK for a second round pick. Okay, so that's a two-parter, Biggie Steve. So you're pissed off we didn't get him for the second round pick. Okay. I got you on that. But are you pissed off that you didn't have to pay him $150 million on a 5-year extension? Are you pissed off about that? Because I'm not. As much as I would have loved to have added DK Metcalf. And shit, if they would have done it, I would have been over the moon. But, looking back at how much he got, God damn, man, we knew he was going to get 30 a year. We talked about it. But shit, 5 years? DK's 27 years old. God damn. And I get it. He's not going to see the end of that contract. I fully understand. It's probably, I bet you in the particulars of that deal, it's really a 3-year deal. The last 2 years of that deal, no guaranteed money, yada, 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 that sort of thing. We'll be back here in 3 years talking about DK Metcalf, wanting an extension. And if he's playing up to that level, they may give it to him. If he's not, they may be like, nah, bro. And he might be saying, trade me at that point. So we could be back here with DK in 3 years. But that's a lot of money. And my point was, we talked about this. Were you prepared to give DK that money and then turn around and have to give Terry that same money? Because to me, DK getting that money, Terry's deal should be more than DK Metcalf's. He's better than DK Metcalf statistically. He means more to us than DK Metcalf means to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He means more to us than DK Metcalf meant to the Seattle Seahawks, which is why they traded him. He should get paid more than DK Metcalf based off of his production. DK didn't have, I don't think he had 1,000 yards last season. I don't think he had 1,000 yards. I don't care how bad shit gets here in Washington, Terry always hits his mark. He always hits his quota. So, yeah. If that deal's for 30, Terry's deal should be for 31, 32. Were you really willing to do that at the receiver position? Spend $30 million on 2 different receivers per year. Like, that's a tough sell, man. I just find it hard to believe that would have been something that this group would have wanted to do. I just didn't believe that was the smart play, right? So I get it. The second rounder isn't what hurt. I would have given up a second rounder for DK. It was the money that I knew we were going to have to pay, and divulging that much into one position, that many resources into the receiver position just didn't make enough sense to me. This is where having one of them ones is supposed to come into play. Christian Kirk would have been just fine, right? Had he hit the free agent market, you were able to pay him 14, 15, 16, 17. That's way better than paying one dude 30 and another dude 32, right? You shouldn't have to do that with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. You shouldn't have to do that. It'd be nice to have 2 dominant receivers. You don't have to have 2 dominant. As long as you got one and other guys that can play ball, you should be fine. We have that. It'd be nice to add another guy. That's what we want to do. But again, I could see them just running it back with the Commanders reserve all-stars at the receiver position from last year, OZ, Noah Brown, Crowder, and then having Luke, and that's your 6 receivers. Oh. But I could see it happening. And if that's what they decided to do, okay. We'd have to live with it. CC Skins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. CC Skins writes, just need to get Carlton Davis or Ward at corner, Trey Hendrickson or Mack, draft a running back, big receiver with speed and corner, trust Chef P. What says you? So I like where your head is, CC Skins. I'm okay with Carlton Davis. I would prefer Mike Jack, though. But if they went out and got Carlton Davis, I'd be fine with that. Trey Hendrickson or Mack, I agree. You need somebody. And I would throw Zadarius Smith into that mix as a one-year fix, because I think Mack would be a one-year guy, too. So you're going to go with that veteran that's going to give you 1 year. I think Zadarius Smith and Mack are 2 options there. If you're going to go with the trade and the extension, Trey Hendrickson on a 2-year extension, a la Danielle Hunter with the Texans last year, would make a ton of sense for us. I'm with that. You said draft a running back. I think we all universally, that's the one thing I think we all agree on, is drafting a back. Now, we might not agree on what back to draft and what type of back we're looking for, but I think we're all together, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, as Commander fans. Is one of the few things I think we agree on, is that we need to draft a running back this year. And I think the organization understands that and is prepared to do that as well. You said a big receiver with speed. I'd love it. I've been advocating for that. But again, their activity in free agency will tell us if they're going to punt on the receiver position in the draft, like they're going to punt at tight end. I think they're going to punt on the tight end position in the draft. And if they, sign a free agent, bring back 2 of their own guys, or they don't sign any more free agents and they just bring back all three of those dudes, OZ, Noah Brown, Jamison Crowder, I don't see them drafting a receiver. I don't see them drafting that this year. So again, free agency will tell the story as to what they're going to ultimately decide to do. I'm with you. I would prefer a receiver with size and some speed. That'd be great. But I want another guy, period. So if the dude is Matthew Golden, isn't size, he's a 6-foot receiver, but he's plenty fast and he's super skilled. Emeka Egbuka isn't tall, right? But I don't even know if he's fast, but he's really talented. So I'd be okay with him or Matthew Golden. And those guys aren't big. I'm not being choosy here. I just want a good football player at receiver to add to the mix, if at all possible. And then corner. They're going to add corner. I'm not concerned about corner. You talked about Carlton Davis and Ward, and I've added in Mike Jack. They're going to do something at corner, so I'm not really too concerned there. Trust Chef P. That's the mantra, right? In Chef P, we trust. Let him cook. I'm gonna let him cook. John Perez. Cheers to my guy JP. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy JP writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP, always good to hear from you. Defensive end should be our first free agent upgrade. I mean, that and corner, like both of them need serious makeovers. Khalil Mack and Trey Hendrickson are a must. You said and like we getting both of them. One of them is a must. They're not going to get somebody at defensive end. I can't say that those two are a must because Zadarius Smith would also. That's another option, right? Guy got 9 sacks last year, so he's still an option. Is he the Zadarius Smith from 6 years ago, 5 years ago that was in Green Bay that was wreaking out? No, but is he still a damn good football player? Yes. I would actually like to add him and a Khalil Mack. I wouldn't mind adding both of those guys, but I don't see them doing both, right? We don't have a closer on defense. We don't. And I'm sad to tell you this, but at this stage of his career, Khalil Mack's not a closer. Zadarius Smith is probably not a closer. Hendrickson could be, but he might not be. Like, none of these guys are like Myles Garrett was your closer. He was never available. So I don't know if any of these guys are true closers on defense, but they can get to the quarterback. And whether that's closing a drive in the first quarter, second, third, or at the end of the game, which we struggled, right? We talked about this. I think I beat that horse. It was dead, and I still was beating the shit out of this horse about the fact that you couldn't trust this defense to do anything at the end of ball games. It had to be on the offense to win us games. The ball needed to be in Jaden Daniels' hands or else we were going to lose because our defense, as we saw against the Saints, they weren't going to get the stop that we needed. They weren't. We saw it in the Bucs game in the playoffs. They knew they had to stay on offense. We have to kick a field goal there. No doubt in our minds, the Bucs are going down there and getting a game-winning time field goal or scoring a touchdown and beating us. The defense was absolutely horrific in late game situations. Steelers game, Bears game. I mean, we can go down the list of games where they blew it at the end, and if not for the offense bailing them out, or the offense just not letting them be on the field, like the second Giants game. If the Giants had gotten the ball back, if we didn't get a first down, they would have beat us. Our defense was awful in those situations. So, yeah, we need a closer. That'd be nice. But so would the rest of the league love a closer. Everybody wants a closer. There's not a lot of those guys in the league. Not a lot of guys in the league. So you said that's what Mack and Hendrickson are. I think Hendrickson more so than Mack at this point. But shit, I take my chances with Khalil Mack too. Damn it. Take my chances with him as well. And he's the exact type of veteran leader they want in this locker room, right? He'd fit right in with the Bobby Wagners, the Zach Ertz, and the Austin Ecklers of the world. He'd fit right in, right? Hendrickson too, right? Both of them would. So we'll see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. OG, triple OG, Mr. Ron B, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, very intentional of AP to sign B-Wags and Ertz first. They were the top priorities. It sends a strong message to the potential free agents. I don't know if that was strategically done or not, Mr. Ron B. You might be right, and they may have intentionally done it that way. I just think those were the easiest ones to get done. You weren't going to have to overpay. You weren't going to have to break the bank. Those guys wanted to be here. You wanted them back. You knew what the price what the price range was going to be. So those were easier to get done. It was going to be a whole bunch of back and forth, finagling. Hey, this guy's doing this. This guy. I mean, both of those guys are at the point of their careers where it's all about fit now and me being comfortable. We'll get to the number. Do I want to be there? And they both wanted to be here. So I think those were the easier ones to get done. But to your point, that does send a message to the locker room like, hey, you do it the right way. You do it the way we ask you to do it. We'll reward you. But then what does it say that Dante Fowler Jr., Jeremy Chinn, and Tress Way haven't gotten extensions or not extensions, excuse me, haven't gotten their deals done yet? I mean, I just think those were the easiest ones to get done. Same thing with Zane Gonzalez. It's just an easy deal to get done, so why not do it? But we'll see. We'll see. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Swaggy P writes, Myles Garrett, I want to win, and that's not happening here. Browns, here's $123 million guaranteed. Myles Garrett, shit. I didn't want to move anyway. Now let's get Kerrigan 2.0 Hendrickson. Look, man, that's a lot of money. 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 It's hard to turn that shit down, bro. He might have been really trying to get out. Like, man, I don't care how much money they offering me, man. I want out. I'm trying to win. Myles, they offered $123 million. So when can we get out there to sign the contract? That should have changed your tone real quick. Take a lot of that bass out your voice real quick. Man, I don't care what they offering, man. Tell them I want out. $123 million guaranteed. Yeah. I think I can get there on Monday. Is that good for you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and arrange that. Set that up. Tell them, yeah, we down for that. Shit changed real quick. Money talks. Everything else walks. We talked about that. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I really love Mason Graham, defensive tackle for Michigan, but I don't see him falling out of the teens. I'd love to draft a defensive tackle at 29 if there's a good one there. So on Mason Graham, there's no way in hell he's getting out of the top half of the first round. So, yeah, even if he did, there's no way he makes it to us at 29. So he won't fall that far. I think him and his teammate will probably go in the first round before we even select. Both of them are defensive tackles. That said, they could go defensive tackle at 29. That's a very distinct possibility. This is not a great, as I've already mentioned, free agent crop of defensive tackles. It's not a great offensive line crop either. So it'll be interesting to see where they spend their free agent resources at. I expect them to do something on the defensive line in free agency. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an edge rusher. A defensive tackle, I think they could sign one in free agency and still draft one. It's not out of the, again, the depth at defensive end, corner, and receiver right now is lacking. Now, the expectation is that they will re-sign some of their own receivers, which will take some of that depth and place it onto the roster. I'm hoping they bring back Noah Igbenogany. That will add some more depth back to the roster. But you still got to go out and do some stuff, which they will. And on the defensive line, I expect them to bring, I wouldn't be shocked if they brought Sheldon Day back. I wouldn't be shocked if I expect them to bring Jalen Holmes back. I expect them to re-sign him. So, but it wouldn't shock me if they brought Carl Davis and Sheldon Day back and those guys ended up being practice squad players again. Like that wouldn't shock me. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thanks for being a member of the MOBB video channel. Right. Late night Lou. Yeah. In the flesh. Thoughts on Milton Williams and if you would like him in Washington. I wouldn't mind it. Again, in a deep defensive line draft class where you can get cheap labor, do you want to spend on Milton Williams because he's a really good football player and he's going to cost? Now, again, this is a real conversation for Commanders fans, this free agency period, because of where we are. Are you willing to invest in a young player, the time and energy that it may take, and that young guy may not be ready to come in and help you right away, like in a major way, while you're trying to maximize Jaden Daniels' rookie contract? On the flip side, Milton Williams established himself already, going into his second deal, has shown you what he can be in this league. You know what you're getting. You're going to have to pay for it, but he's an immediate impact player that you insert into your defense and he can help you. What says you? Like, which one is more important? And that's what it all boils down to, is what are they willing to do? You could draft a guy and you would hope you draft somebody like a Braden Fisk and they come in and have an immediate impact in the second round. But you could draft Johnny Newton all over again and they do next to nothing for you in their first year. And again, Johnny Newton might be a beast next season. And the dude that we draft this year might be a beast in year 2, or even year 3, right? Johnny Newton might turn out to be a beast in year 3. We don't know when that light bulb comes on or when that production starts to kick in. But it might not happen in year 1 is what I'm getting at. Whereas with Milton Williams, you expect him to come in and have an immediate impact based off of where he is at this point of his career. So I would be fine with him. He's a good football player. He gets pressure on the quarterback. He stops the run. Very active up front, disruptive, gets into the backfield. He's not like the biggest guy in the world. How much does Milton Williams weigh? I'm actually interested in seeing how much he weighs. So I'm going to look it up. Milton Williams is 290. So he fits exactly what Dan Quinn and them like, undersized defensive tackles who can create havoc up front and get into the backfield. I wouldn't be shocked if they did go after him. It wouldn't surprise me any if they did. I don't expect them to, but it wouldn't shock me. Going Commando. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Going Commando writes, hey, Lou, Great Minds adult beverage. Hey! Also in hand in anticipation for tomorrow. Garrett being off the shopping list means all focus on Trey. And, I mean, I think that's where most fans have turned their attention to. And that's why this is so fascinating to me, because so many fans are all in on Trey Hendrickson. Like, if he doesn't land here, let's say he ends up in Atlanta, or he ends up in Green Bay, or he ends up in Minnesota, or anywhere else but Washington. Do you know how disappointed the fan base will be? They'll see the conversation. We couldn't have done that. Like, because that's always the reaction, right? Like, somebody already said, we could have gave up a 2 for DK Metcalf. Yeah, we could have, but our 2 sucks, right? 1, we weren't willing to give it up. Let's start there. But 2, if somebody else's 2, okay, so in the case of this, the Steelers' 2 is better than the Commanders' 2. And the Commanders are in the NFC, the Steelers are in the AFC. Which one makes the most sense for the Seahawks? Right? Like, this isn't hard. It's easy mathematics. So, if we don't get Trey Hendrickson, there's going to be a lot of disappointed Commanders fans. And I honestly don't know why. Because, again, there are a lot of factors that go into trading for guys. And we've already made 2 trades. We made one at the trade deadline, and we made another one already to kick off this offseason. Like, how many trades you think we really going to be a part of? These aren't like the Debo one was a 5th round pick, right? Like, okay. But this one is going to require day 2 compensation. Maybe day 1. Like, that's a tough, bitter pill to swallow. Like, we already don't have any draft picks. Like, a lot of fans are like, I don't give a shit. I ain't trying to hear none of that. Make it happen. Right? And I hear you, but it's a lot to juggle. It's a lot to, and then knowing you have to then turn around and pay him, and that price just went up. The price for trading for Trey Hendrickson went up with the Myles Garrett deal, and then the price to pay him once you trade for him also has gone up due to the Max Crosby and Myles Garrett money. So all this, these are all factors. And if we don't get them, there are going to be a lot of upset fans. And I'm not going to be one of them. But it's a lot of fans they're banking on us getting Trey Hendrickson. And if it doesn't happen, they're going to lose their shit. And I'm just like, yeah, why are we doing this? Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Joe Rockhead. Beating the table for Michael Jackson. Beat it. Yeah, I'm beating the table for Mike Jack, man. Beat it. Beat it. I'm telling you, this dude can ball, man. He can ball. I hope he can ball. I hope they beat it. Pause, man. I'm tripping. I'm kidding. Hey, I'm kidding, man. Gosh. Relax. Finesse the plug. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, if you had to put a commander's tag on 5 players in free agency, who would they be? Mike Jack would be one I would put a commander's tag on. Khalil Mack would be a guy that I would put a commander's tag on. Now, you talking strictly free agents, or you talking about guys we could trade for? Because Trey Hendrickson would be a guy that I would put a commander's tag on as well. But if you just talking about guys that are actually free agents, it'd be Khalil Mack, Mike Jack, Josh Palmer. Let's see. Trying to think of other positions that we may need. Like Chris Godwin would fit here, obviously. Zadarius Smith would fit here. All those guys would have commander's tags. They're all tough. They're unselfish guys that put the team first. I think that's 5. I think I just gave you 5. But again, I expect Godwin to go back to Tampa. I expect Mack to go back to the Chargers. And then the other 2 or 3 guys that I mentioned, Palmer, Mack. All right, well, I already mentioned him. And Mike Jack. Michael Jackson is interesting. I really want to see where he ends up. Carolina, I think they'd be stupid to let him walk, but I don't know if they value him the way that I do. So, which was their issue last year. Paulson Adebo is out there. He's another interesting name, young. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if they went with a bunch of youngins, because Adebo is 25 and Dio Odangbo is 25. And how old is Wharton? I wonder if Tershawn Wharton is he probably like 27 years old. I wouldn't be shocked if he was like he's 26. I was gonna say 26, but he'll be 27 before the season starts. His birthday's in June. He'll be 27. That's what I thought. Let's see what Tershawn had 7 sacks this past season for the Chiefs. 7 sacks. I'm telling you right now, That's a guy that I think they might be interested in. How much does Tershawn weigh now? He's super undersized. He's got one of those long, wiry frames. So, again, I know y'all ain't trying to hear nothing about nobody that's got no long, wiry frame. 280, 6'1", so he's super undersized. But he's a problem, man. It's like certain dudes that you see and you like, okay. And you might be able to play him at defensive end too. Like he gives you versatility at 280, 6'1", 280. But like it's a lot of guys that would fit that commander tag for me. So we'll see what they decide to do. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, what safety do you like in the draft? So I'll obviously Amanda Worry is really, really good. I love Billy Bo out of Oklahoma though. Love Billy Bo. That's the one I want in the second round, but 61 is so far back. And he performed so well at the combine. And he's a stud, man. And he does so many things well. I just don't think he's going to be there at 61. He's not getting drafted in the first round, but I can see him going at 49. I can see him going at 53. I can see him going at 37, 39, anywhere but 61. So that's the guy that I really like at safety. Going Commando. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Going Commando writes, more happy than I should be about a blocking tight end being back. Look, man, people have been really disrespecting John Bates's role here. And I don't get it, right? I don't get it. Bench players talking like starters, I hate it, right? Like, stop disrespecting John Bates like this man wasn't an integral part of the offensive success this season. Stop it. Don't do him like that. Chinn, Tress, Noah Brown, or OZ, and Noah I are the last I want back. DFJ and Diami are bye. So you tripping on Dante, man. I agree with pretty much the entire list that I agree with all of those guys. They should be back. Dante Fowler Jr. should be back too. Again, how high is that money going? But he can't be asking but for so much. And I get it, man. Players get extremely greedy. And I told you before, and I'll tell you again, generally, I side with the players. I side with the players. You only get a very finite amount of time to make money as an NFL player, unlike other sports where you can play till you're 40. And if you are, really good at your job, you could have a career that extends 15 to 20 years, right? Udonis Haslem sat on the bench for the Heat for like 5 years and didn't play. He was like a player's coach. Like, you can't do that shit in the NFL unless you're a backup quarterback. Like, guys that don't play the quarterback position don't get the long snappers, place kickers, like specialists in general, right? Punters, kickers, long snappers, and backup quarterbacks are the only players that can have a long career and not have to really worry about the shit that the other players have to worry about. But as an edge rusher, there's only a certain amount of earning power and amount of time you have to earn. You got to take advantage of it. So for me, Dante Fowler Jr. is a guy that I'm not mad at him for trying to maximize. The man had double-digit sacks. Matter of fact, let's take a look at Dante Fowler Jr. and see the last time. I'm gonna guess the last time Dante Fowler Jr. had double-digit sacks was in Jacksonville. So we talking 5-6 years ago. That's my guess. 5-6 years ago. Dante Fowler Jr. had 11 sacks for us this year. The last time he had double-digit, first of all, he only had double-digit sacks one other time in his career, and that was with the Rams. I was wrong. It was not in Jacksonville. It was with the Rams in 2019. He had 12 sacks. Listen to this. 4, 8, 4, 12, 3, 5, 6, 4 last year with Dallas, 2 years ago with Dallas, and 11 with us. So again, I don't blame him for wanting to maximize the money. This man had 11 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. And of course, we know that went to the house as a pick 6. I don't blame him for trying to maximize his worth. Market value says he should be worth $5.2 million. That's not, he's getting way more than that. And that's the problem. He says he's being disrespected. He's tired of being disrespected. I'm assuming they're trying to lowball him with the offer. He can't be talking to fans on social media. Who gives a shit what they're talking about? He's got to be talking about the negotiation process and how it's going with the squad. And I took him for granted. And that's my fault. Diami's gone. I told y'all, but y'all going to be surprised when y'all see how much money Diami get. Y'all see what this wide receiver market is. Y'all gonna be like, yo, Diami got what? And I'm not telling you Diami finna get a $40 million contract, because that's not what I'm saying. But you're gonna be surprised. Like, a lot of y'all don't even think Diami's gonna get, $6 million a year. I think he's gonna get 7 or 8. I think he's finna sign a 2-year 14, 3-year 21, 3-year 24, 2-year $16 million type deal, right? That's what I think he's finna be on. So Diami is as good as going. I wouldn't have mind having him back, but he's as good as going. Dante, on the other hand, is crazy if he's not back. I didn't see that one coming. I didn't, but such is life. Hunter Hodovic, been a member for 35 months. You, my friend, are on the precipice of being a member of the illustrious MOBB for 3 years. You're not quite there yet, but you're about to be, man. Really, truly do appreciate you. My God, Double H writes, sup, T? Sup, Hunt? Hope you and yours are doing well. Likewise, man. Likewise, really appreciate you for tuning in. And my guy, Hunter Hodovic, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Double H. Right. Dark horse for free agency is bringing back Chase Young. I know he hasn't done anything since he's been gone, but I feel with this coaching staff, maybe. I don't. Here's the reason why I don't think Chase Young is a viable option here. Adam Peters was a part of the 49ers organization when they traded for him, when they were trying to make that run to the Super Bowl, and they ultimately did get to the Super Bowl. Chase Young was a massive acquisition for them. They gave us that 3rd-round pick, and he did next to nothing for them. And I don't think that's lost on him. Now, he went to New Orleans, and he was solid. We saw him last year, and he wreaked havoc in that game, if you recall, when we played the Saints. He was a problem. But make no mistake about it. Chase Young is not what we thought he was going to be, and he's solid, but I just, again, I think a lot of fans would love to see him come back because they feel like it's unfinished business and they were Chase Young fans. Just like there were a lot of fans in the fan base that wanted Robert Griffin III to come back because they were Robert Griffin III fans. And there are a lot of people that bought Chase Young jerseys after that defensive rookie of the year campaign. A lot of people bought Chase Young jerseys. There's a lot of 99 jerseys that's at home that you can't rock anymore. You rocking, but it's like, this shit trash. So there's a lot of people that would probably love to see Chase Young come back, but the fact of the matter is I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'd rather them go get Dio Odangbo. Like, I've seen Chase Young. I know what that looks like. I'm good, right? I don't need to see it again. Let me see something different. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. All right. How you feel about Adebo as a free agent option? I'm not opposed to Paulson Adebo. He takes the football away. Now, he's coming off of a major injury, as we talked about with the femur injury. But he's young. He's talented. I told you he's a bit handsy for me. A lot of PI flags on Paulson Adebo, but when he tracks the football, when he locates it, he takes it away. And that's something that we just don't have right now in the secondary. So it'd be interesting because you would be reuniting the two New Orleans Saints corners with each other. That might work well for us. And again, Adebo is a guy that may not cost you as much because he's coming off the injury, right? Do you want to invest in a guy multiple years, or would you be okay with that 1-year deal for Adebo to see what he can do? And then if he plays well, you turn around and you try to pay him next year because he's still relatively young. I think talking about with Adebo, he's 25 years old. So if he balls out this year and he's 26 next year, what are we talking about, right? He's still relatively young. You give him that extension or that new contract next year. So he's interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to Paulson Adebo. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Wouldn't be opposed to it at all. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. Tomorrow is going to be a crazy day. Lot going on, and we're going to start to get some clarity with this football team. I'm going to tell you right now, tomorrow the Commanders will, you're going to hear a corner, and there will be some sort of resolution at edge rusher for the Commanders, or at least a signing. It may not be the end-all, be-all, but those are the two positions. And I wouldn't rule out wide receiver too, a veteran wide receiver for the Commanders. That's not one of the guys that was here last year, an outside wide receiver that they're bringing in. So look for a receiver name. I'll throw one out. Josh Palmer, Darius Slayton. Those are the two that I'm going to throw out. I would prefer Palmer or DeMarcus Robinson, but because in Robinson, that's another command. Somebody asked me a commander tag. DeMarcus Robinson would be a commander tag guy. They would eat DeMarcus Robinson up in terms of, his work ethic, his toughness, his do anything for the team attitude. He'll play special teams if you ask him to. Pause. So he's another guy I would put a commander's tag on. But Palmer and Darius Slayton at receiver, cornerback. I would tell you Adebo, Mike, Jack, Mooney are your three guys. I wouldn't rule out Carlton Davis either, but I'm going with those three. So look for that. And then edge rusher, I really think it's going to be Dio Odangbo. I really think it's going to be. I think they're looking to go young. And that's why I said Josh Palmer makes a ton of sense. Dio Odangbo makes a ton of sense. Adebo makes a ton of sense. Those guys are all 25 years old. Now, are they going to go all young? I don't know. Only one way to find out. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Anyway, whatever happens tomorrow, you're going to see my face a lot. So get ready. It's going to be a hell of a day tomorrow. I'm anticipating, man. I can't wait. Anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you guys tomorrow. If you thought the last 48 hours in the NFL were crazy, wait until tomorrow. I'll be covering it all here on the Louie T Network, a little bit on Bleacher Report, but I'll be here pretty much the entire day. You know where to find me. Come look me up. We'll do this thing together. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button on the way out. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, got another super chat. Hold on a second. Brandon N. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Lou, no love for Rasul Douglas. Nah, I'm good on Rasul Douglas. He is a scheme fit. You got to be playing zone coverage. He's a big, tall, long corner, but he's old. He came into the league slow as hell, and that's not what we're looking for. He's a zone corner. We do play zone. Don't get it twisted, but we also want to play man. That's what they want to do. And we play zone that converts to man. And again, I like Rasul Douglas. Rasul got to be pushing 30. I'm going to guess he's 30, 31 years. I'm going to say 30. He's going to turn 31 before the season starts. Let's look him up. And Rasul came in the league on some 4-5, 4-6 shit running wise. So yeah, I'm not the biggest Rasul Douglas fan, but he was really good in Green Bay. You know, just as good in Buffalo, if not better in Buffalo. But yeah, I'm a pass on Rasul Douglas. So Rasul is 30 years old. He will be 31 in August. So before the season starts, he'll be 31 years old. That, you know, the cornerback position is no country for old men. Like, again, solid player. He'll take it away. Obviously, Green Bay 2021, 5 interceptions. 2022 with Green Bay, 4 interceptions. He then got traded to Buffalo. He had 5 interceptions. Last year, he had no interceptions. Now, that doesn't mean he wasn't good for them. He didn't have the production. He had 15 starts last year, so he's been a pretty durable player. But again, not my type of corner. If we played, you know, primarily zone, and we play a lot of zone. Don't get me wrong. We did at least last year, but we know ultimately they want to play man. Brandon, they want to play man. So he doesn't fit. He's got the height. He's got the length. He's got the weight. He just don't have the speed. So I'm a pass on him. But you get the right defense, Rasul Douglas probably could really help you a lot. A lot. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. See you guys tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. It's only a day for some of y'all away. For most of us, if you're on the East Coast, shit, that's the day. Anyway. Peace.